Imagine a family the world watched for years, celebrated for love and unity, now exposed in a courtroom where secrets, betrayal, and favoritism are laid bare. The cameras flash, the tension is unbearable, and every word spoken threatens to shatter the carefully crafted image of the Browns forever. This is not just a trial, it's the unraveling of a family, a battle for truth and a fight for survival that the world cannot look away from. The gavel had not fallen yet, but the air inside the courtroom was already heavy with expectation and silent understanding. Outside the building, cameras flashed endlessly, capturing every step of the Brown family as they entered the place that would finally strip their story of soft lighting and careful edits. Inside, the benches filled quickly with reporters, longtime viewers, and strangers who were not there for closure, but for revelation. Because after years of being presented as a symbol of devotion and unity, the Browns were now exposed as something far more fragile, a family fractured and forced into the unforgiving structure of the law. Christine was the first to enter, her posture steady, her expression calm, but her jaw tight with the kind of strength earned through years of swallowing her voice. She took her seat without looking toward Cody, as if even acknowledging him would reopen wounds she had worked too hard to seal. Janelle followed, moving slower, her shoulders carrying the weights of sleepless nights spent worrying about stability and the future of her children. Mary arrived last, gliding quietly, her face unreadable as it had been for years, a woman who existed inside the family, yet always just outside its warmth. For the first time, they did not sit as sister wives, competing for scraps of attention. They sat together, aligned by shared truth and quiet resolve. Across from them sat Cody, once confident, once animated, now rigid, his hair subdued, his hands clenched on the table as if gripping control that was already slipping away. Beside him, Robin leaned close, her hand wrapped around his arm, her posture protective and tense, her eyes fixed on the women across from her. She carried an expression that mixed defiance with something dangerously close to fear. The judge entered and ordered silence. The room obeyed, but the tension remained thick with years of unspoken grievances, manipulation, and broken promises waiting to surface. Christine's lawyer stood and spoke with measured clarity, telling the court that this case was not about separation or personal conflict, but about long-term patterns of emotional control, financial imbalance, and betrayal that had impacted not only the women, but the children as well. Christine stared at her hands, grounding herself as the words settled over the room. Janelle reached out and rested a hand on her arm, offering silent reassurance. Cody shifted uncomfortably, his attorney whispering guidance, but Cody's eyes never left Christine, burning with accusation, believing her departure had ignited everything. Robin stared forward, unmoving, accustomed to being cast as the catalyst, yet unable to deny that public perception and evidence had slowly aligned against her. The first exhibits were financial records, accounts emptied, assets shifted, credit lines exhausted, funds meant for the entire family redirected toward one household. Christine clenched her fists beneath the table, fighting emotion, realizing that years of sacrifice had been reduced to numbers on a screen. Janelle listened with tight focus, recognizing patterns she had questioned for years. Mary remained still, her silence speaking louder than protest. When Janelle took the stand, her voice shook, then steadied as truth gave it strength. She spoke of trust, of shared decisions that were never truly shared, of labor and sacrifice poured into a future that quietly vanished. She described discovering that funds had been moved without explanation, concentrated in one place while others struggled. Cody reacted sharply, slamming his hand down, denying everything, his voice rising until the judge intervened, restoring order but not repairing the damage. Mary later spoke softly, admitting she stayed not out of fulfillment but hope that faded as trust eroded. Her words landed gently, yet left a profound silence, even the judge pausing to regard her with something like understanding. Christine finally looked at Cody, her expression devoid of anger, filled only with certainty. She did not need to speak. The judge called a recess, but the truth had already taken root. Outside, cameras waited, but inside, the transformation was undeniable. The family, once celebrated for unity, now sat divided by evidence and accountability. The next morning, the courtroom filled beyond capacity as coverage spread across platforms and public curiosity turned intense. The judge resumed proceedings with firm authority, calling for witness testimony. The first expert presented was a financial auditor who detailed a consistent pattern of mismanagement and redirection of shared resources. Property intended for all was sold and proceeds deposited into accounts controlled by Cody and Robin alone. Gasps filled the room. Christine closed her eyes. Janelle leaned back, processing the confirmation. Mary stared downward, absorbing the finality. Cody protested, but facts overpowered denial. Records of personal spending, luxury travel, and high-end purchases contrasted sharply with testimony of financial strain faced by the others. Robin attempted to interrupt, claiming misunderstandings, but was silenced by the court. Christine was then called to testify. Her voice steady yet heavy, she described entering the marriage with faith and hope, only to find herself raising children in isolation, watching resources flow elsewhere. She spoke of trying to communicate, of being dismissed and blamed, accused of disloyalty when she asked for fairness. She admitted jealousy, not of another woman, but of equality and respect. Her words resonated deeply as she revealed discovering hidden transactions long after she believed her exit ended the pain. Janelle followed, presenting clear data, spreadsheets, timelines, undeniable proof. She spoke calmly, explaining that missing funds were not accidents, but choices. By the time she finished, Cody was visibly shaken. When given the chance to speak, he rose, blaming abandonment, accusing Christine of influence, claiming his actions were misunderstood. The room buzzed until Christine quietly responded that this was not revenge, but truth. The silence that followed was absolute. The judge called another recess as the narrative, carefully curated for years, finally collapsed, leaving only reality exposed. The courtroom reconvened, the air heavier than ever as reporters, fans, and onlookers leaned forward in anticipation, each person acutely aware that what was about to unfold would redefine every image they had been shown of the Brown family. The judge's gavel struck sharply, demanding decorum, and signaling the continuation of a story that had been years in the making. Christine's attorney stood once more and announced the next phase of evidence presentation: financial documents, property deeds, and hidden accounts that would reveal the deliberate exclusion and favoritism that had haunted the other wives for years. The first document projected on the screen was a deed showing that the Arizona property, originally purchased jointly by all the wives, had been sold with proceeds close to $400,000 deposited solely into an account controlled by Cody and Robin. Whispers rippled through the room. Journalists scribbled frantically. Christine clutched the edge of her seat, the familiar ache of betrayal washing over her. Janelle's face remained stoic, but her hands trembled slightly as she absorbed the evidence. Mary's fists clenched until her knuckles were white. The judge looked at Cody directly, demanding an explanation, and Cody rose with flushed face, his words a mixture of defensiveness and justification, claiming he did what was best, but his tone betrayed the panic and uncertainty bubbling underneath. He spoke of unilateral decisions made out of necessity and frustration, blaming resistance and miscommunication for the isolation of funds. Christine's attorney pressed relentlessly, pointing out the deliberate choice to favor one household over the others, to divert resources, and to ignore the commitments made to all wives. Cody's denial grew more frantic with each assertion, the microphone capturing every flinch, every defensive gesture. Robin leaned closer to him, offering silent reassurance even as tears streamed down her cheeks. She whispered that the court did not understand, that the intent was never malicious, but every fact and every testimony painted a starkly different picture. The next set of documents revealed hidden bank accounts opened in secret, the meticulous movement of money to support luxuries for one wife and household, while others were methodical yet devastating, showing each transfer, each purchase, each expense that had been deliberately hidden until now. The gallery reacted audibly, gasps, whispered shock, scribbling journalists capturing every detail. Cody's frustration reached a peak, his voice breaking as he insisted on his intent and the necessity of his actions, yet his explanations fell flat against the evidence presented. Christine leaned forward, her voice unwavering, detailing not only the financial betrayal, but the emotional abandonment, the calculated manipulation, the pattern that had eroded trust over the years. She revealed conversations where Cody had dismissed concerns, where Robin had intervened selectively, amplifying the imbalance until it became undeniable to anyone listening. Even those who had idolized the family could not ignore the clear evidence of favoritism and selective protection of one household. The attorney then shifted to the final stage of evidence, exposing contracts, text messages, and email exchanges showing explicit decisions made without consulting other wives, explicit instructions to accountants to withhold funds, directives that prioritized one family over others, all meticulously documented and verified. Each revelation added a new layer of tension. Cody's shoulders slumped under the weight of public scrutiny, his once commanding presence reduced to defensive postures and muttered protests. Robin's face reddened with tears. She gripped Cody's arm, yet the security she sought in him could no longer hide the reality of their choices. The judge observed silently, processing the flood of testimony and documents. Christine's calm strength contrasted sharply with Cody's rising panic. Janelle's methodical clarity reinforced the narrative of betrayal. Mary's quiet but piercing words confirmed the emotional consequences beyond the numbers. The gallery was silent as each document was processed, as if collectively the room was absorbing years of manipulation in a compressed moment of reckoning. The attorney concluded by summarizing the pattern, highlighting the selective favoritism, the deliberate concealment of resources, the undermining of trust and stability, and the emotional toll that had been borne silently by Christine, Janelle, and Mary. Cody attempted once more to justify his actions, asserting loyalty to the family and claiming misunderstanding, yet every word seemed increasingly hollow against the damning tide of evidence. Christine rose once more, her voice steady, cutting through the room. She spoke of truth, of survival, of finally reclaiming a narrative long suppressed. She outlined the steps she had taken to protect her children, to preserve her dignity, and to expose injustice, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. The courtroom was captured in an unrelenting silence, the tension coiling tighter with every second. The judge's eyes scanned the room, his gavel ready to restore order, but even authority could not dissolve the weight of accumulated truth. The media present scribbled feverishly, recording each nuance, each pause, each reaction. The Brown family, as once presented in edited television segments, had been dismantled, replaced by a raw, unfiltered account of emotional and financial manipulation. Years of public image, carefully curated, had crumbled, leaving vulnerability, accountability, and revelation. The final testimony involved experts in financial law and family counseling, each confirming the pattern of disparity, the deliberate exclusion of certain wives from decisions, and the concentration of resources in one household. The combination of lived experience, testimony, and cold hard facts created a narrative impossible to refute. Cody's attempts at defense became fragmented, his credibility fraying. Robin's tears fell freely. She gripped Cody's arm as if that alone could salvage understanding, but the evidence was relentless. Christine and Janelle sat unwavering, their solidarity palpable. Their eyes met Mary's in silent confirmation of shared endurance, of the struggle, and of being heard for the first time. The judge called the court to a final recess, allowing the room to breathe, but the tension remained palpable. Cameras continued to flash, capturing every detail outside, while inside, the reality of exposure settled deep. Cody sat with his hands limp, face flushed, finally confronted by the scale of choices he had made. Robin, beside him, silent, their private justifications now meaningless to the world. Witnesses had been heard, documents examined, words spoken, and yet the story was far from over. The women had not only presented evidence, but reclaimed their voices, forcing accountability and illuminating patterns that had been hidden for far too long. The tension of what was yet to be resolved loomed over everyone present, and the anticipation of the next steps in the courtroom hung like a storm cloud ready to break. The final exchanges of the day laid bare the imbalance of power, the deliberate manipulation of resources, the fractured emotional bonds, and the undeniable evidence of favoritism that had defined the family for years, leaving every participant and observer in a state of suspended disbelief and rapt attention as the saga unfolded layer by layer, each revelation building on the previous one, creating an unbroken thread of suspense and tension that ensured no one in the courtroom or watching from afar could turn away or remain indifferent to the unraveling of the Brown family narrative. The courtroom lights dimmed on a family once idolized, now exposed in raw truth and undeniable reality. Christine, Janelle, and Mary stood united, their voices reclaiming years of silence, while Cody and Robin faced the consequences of favoritism and broken trust. What unfolded was more than a trial. It was a revelation of power, betrayal, and survival. The image of the perfect family shattered, leaving only the unvarnished story of resilience, accountability, and the courage to confront the past, a story the world will never forget.